Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unarmored Talk Podcast, where we will have real life conversations that help you develop an accurate way of thinking. And the way we're going to do this is by gaining a better understanding of how emotions, feelings, and thoughts can influence the outcome of a personal or professional challenge. I'm your host, Mario P. Fields, and today's guest is Paul Posey. He's an entrepreneur, he's an author, he's a grandpa, he's an inspirational speaker, a professional photographer, and I can go on and on and on about Paul Posey. And also, he's also one of my private consultants. He has the courage to call me when something is not looking good on social media to say, Mario, you need to take a look at what you just published.
Right.
Paul Posey, welcome to Unarmored Talk Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mario. I'm excited. I'm excited every time we have a conversation, but I'm excited to be on the show, and I couldn't wait for my turn. So I'm here on my turn. So I want me to give a little spiel about me.
Yeah, but before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, and last but not least, but actually one of the most important things, he served this country as a United States Marine. He's still a Marine, but he's retired now, so he's in retired status, but he's still a Marine. Please share a little bit about yourself, Paul, with the viewers and listeners.
Okay. Born and raised in Gary, Indiana. Joined the Marine Corps in 1985. I'm a dad of 7, and I have 6 grandkids, five grandsons, and I'm just living my best life right now. And that comes from what we're about to talk about, the art of making decisions and how does it feel to make a decision. So
nice.
Here I am.
Nice. And we're honored to have you. I mean, 1985, all the wisdom and life experiences. I'm just glad that you have accepted to remove your armor to help others develop a more accurate thinking. So let's just get right into the topic.
All right.
So you joined the Marine Corps, you do about 4 years. We'll talk about, how was that first experience?
Mm-hmm.
You make a decision, you get out, right? And then you do some reserve time in the middle.
Yes.
And then you go back in the Marine Corps, kind of wrap it up with a retirement.
Absolutely.
So walk us through this journey, and then let's dig into some of these personal challenges during this journey.
Okay. So I joined the Marine Corps in 1985. Open contract. I'm pretty sure we recognize that terminology. I wanted to be a motor T, but I was scared of what was happening in my city, Gary, Indiana. And I ended up leaving 3 months early, so I missed the school as a motor T guy. And then I go in an open contract. I become an 8151. That's a Marine Corps security guard down in Charleston, South Carolina.
Mm.
That was a great tour. I loved it. I was a water walker, meritorious corporal, spit shine boots, press camis. And that's when we was earning an insignia up there and then earning an insignia right there. And then at the end of that 2 years, I go to Camp Lejeune. I check in as a Geiger Tiger, and I'm not even in a unit yet. And I'm out to lunch, and they're like, hey, everybody got to be gone at 12:30. Well, since I'm not at the unit, I knew work don't start till 1300.
Right.
They come through, the MPs come through, and they round everybody up. They take the ID card, and then they present them to their first sergeant. So I never met my first sergeant, but I meet him. That's how I meet him. And he tells me, you can't do what you want to do because you come from barracks duty, blah, 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 blah. And for the next 2 years, it was like my worst experience in the Marine Corps.
Wow.
And I decided at the end of that 4 years that I'm just going to get out. I don't like the way he's talking to me. I don't like that we being jerked around consistently. And I just wanted to be out. Wow. But mind you, that was my plan, was to stay in until I was 38 years old and retire and get out. But I changed my plan because how he made me feel.
Wow. Let's talk about that. What was he saying? Like, how was he, like I said, you're doing great. You come from barracks duty, security forces, you're motivated. You already know you want to go until 38 years old, which, when you're 18, 19, that's old. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Yeah. Right? Yes.
And now you got this first sergeant who talk to us about how the hell was he treating you, man?
He was treating me like he wasn't getting none at home. That's how he was treating us.
An armored talk.
Yeah, right. He'd come in and he's just the most angry bastard I'd ever seen in my life. But he had the power. And I felt helpless because there was nothing I could do, no matter how well I performed in my duties as a squad leader, as a fire team leader. I did the best I could, but it was just a blanket thing. It just made me feel bad, and I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it enough to change my plan. And I think that was a mistake. That was true a mistake, because they can't not dictate your end game.
Yeah.
If it's your plan to be a Marine and retire, that is your plan, no matter what they do, because they eventually leave in 2 years. Everybody changes, upper echelon changes.
Right, right.
I didn't know that. And I was ready to go home, and that's what I did. And
yeah. I like Paul. I like how you reference, you made a decision, and now reflecting back on that decision, how you reference how you felt helpless and how this guy was treating you.
Yes.
But how when you look back, you're like, yeah, I made a decision because I want to get the hell away from this guy, and I was like, I'm done.
Right.
And now you're like, no, I shouldn't allow that first sergeant to allow me to make a decision and get off my path of doing 20. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I really like how you highlighted and articulated that. But go ahead.
So now I'm back home.
Yeah.
And I already knew within 2 weeks I made a mistake. I
knew 14 days, huh?
14 days in. It wasn't because the first check didn't come in. No. It's just that I knew I made a mistake, because it was a human that made me make the decision that I shouldn't be a Marine anymore on active duty. Right. So I joined the reserve unit. They had a reserve unit right in my town, in Gary, Indiana. Yeah. And I had to change my MOS to be a part of the unit, because they didn't have grunts there, because reserve centers are based on MOSs, the needs of the reserve center. So I joined the reserves. My grunt history made me a top dog at the unit.
Right.
And I excelled, became a platoon sergeant within 3 months. And I'm just doing the great Marine Corps thing. So I get laid off at my civilian job, which I was a janitor at the time. And I just felt like there was more, but I was not skilled. So becoming an 1141 made me skilled. It changed my position at the job. And but I still needed more. And then I got laid off. So then I go and apply to be a police officer. And that was the next thing for me.
Wow. So you 2 weeks in, yeah, right, you go, man, I shouldn't have got out. But you're still making the best out of it. You move up in the ranks, you're platoon sergeant, you're doing great things. You get a job, right? Even though it was a janitor, you still got a job, get a little money. You get laid off.
Yeah.
You go, you know what? Also, I want to train to be your 1141. Is that utilities?
Yes. That's your basic electrician.
Basic, which I couldn't do it, but become a basic, a skilled trade, right? It'll become a basic electrician.
Yes.
And then now you're applying to be a cop, you say?
Yes. That was the next move, because
the next move. So talk to us about that. So now,
well, that's the next best thing to being a Marine, is probably being a police officer.
Okay. Yeah.
They don't go that way. It's Marine, then police officer. That's how it goes. So I'm married now. And this is 1992 now. I got out in 89. Right. Now that's 1992. And I go to my final interview with the city of Gary. And when I return home, they said the only thing left for you to do is go to basic training, which we already know that I was going to ace that, right?
Right.
As a matter of fact, when I took their agility test, I had the flu, which was nothing to me. That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
So I come home and I go to the mailbox on my way in the house after the interview, and there was a letter from the Marine Corps and asked me, did I want to come back on active duty? And I made that decision on the porch before I went inside, before I talked to my wife. Mm-hmm. We're going back. The reason I was going back was to make sure that I was marketable when I get out and get back on my plan. Now I'm about to be back on my plan. I'm excited because there's a doorway that opened up to get back on my plan to retire as a Marine. And that's exactly what I did. I went back on active duty.
Right.
And then I was opened up to other MOSs. I became 1142, was a generator mechanic. I became 1169 utilities chief. I was a range coach. I was a SACO, substance abuse control officer. Wow. I was the EEO for Group 47 up in Michigan. And what else did I do? Oh, I became a recruiter, a prior service recruiter. And then I became the NCOIC recruiting for 9th Marine Corps District and 6th Marine Corps District. I did all that from 92 to 2009 until I retired.
So before we get to that last portion,
Yeah,
when you were in the reserves, man,
yeah.
how many people did you run into that were like, man, I shouldn't have got out? And how many people did you run into that made those decisions on emotions and they didn't think through it?
I think that happened when I got to in 2002 when I became a prior service recruiter.
Okay, wow.
Yeah,
So yeah, so
yeah.
prior service recruiter. Talk to us about that portion real quick. You know, the amount of people that were like, man, I shouldn't have got out
Uh,
because.
I would say 80% of the people that came into my office actually contemplated why they got out and they shouldn't have got out. You know, one of the things that happens to Marines is when they marry somebody who's not uh, giving you the buy-in on their career,
Yeah.
they want to go home. And a lot of these Marines, their spouses like, you know, if you deploy one more time, I'm going back home, or I
Mm,
don't want to be here, or things like that. Majority of the time is because the family did not plug in into the family cohort at the bases. They became isolated. They might get in base housing, but
right.
they didn't get into all the programs and all the things that makes it better for a family. And when she doesn't do that, the more than likely she wants to go home. So these guys was like, okay, I'm gonna get out for my spouse, and then they'll get home and they'll find out that 60% of the time they leave them anyway.
Right.
So
So
right,
wow. So yeah.
so they come back in the fold and they continue their journeys to be a Marine, whether it's to get more skills or to retire, and that's what we see. And
And I like how you highlight the example of not just your experience of Marines who got out. They didn't just make a decision to get out based off of we'll just say leadership, people with bad behaviors, right? Toxic leadership, but it was also relationship stressors. Uh,
yes,
yeah, and I
yeah,
didn't even think about that where
yeah,
you're making an emotional decision because your husband or your wife is like, I'm tired of this
yeah,
or whatever. So
yeah,
that great point to highlight in making these in your experience. So now you're back in. I want
yeah.
to say you went to California.
Actually, the orders changed within the last couple of days.
Marine Corps.
Marine Corps, right? And they says, well, the orders at Whidbey Island, Washington. You still want to go? I was like, yeah, because I already told my family, I already made concessions to get ready to go, and I was like, yeah, I still took the orders. So I met some great friends. Going back on active duty the second time, knowing that you're going to grab everything you can grab, so when you can get out, that's your
Right.
mindset. What
Right.
can I grab that I can use when I get out, and that will help you on your journey and choosing to be uh, in the Marine Corps for 20 something years. I actually did end up doing 23 years. 23 years instead of just the 20, and I ended up retiring at 41. So yeah,
Wow.
I think I learned what I learned is you have to learn how to make decisions with a 10-year expiration date. What does this look like in 10 years? What does this decision look like in 10 years instead of the knee-jerk decisions that we make and the emotional decisions that we make,
Right.
because those are right then and right now. So you might feel better for 10 minutes, but 10 years from now, you'll be in a prior, well, actually, average of 6 years from now, you'll be in a prior service recruiter's office talking about what you should have did instead of sticking to your plan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now in the first bright part of your journey, it started off great.
yeah,
Then oh, here come old first sergeant, just like it's like a like a typhoon that just won't leave.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I use that cliche. And then the middle portion of it, the middle portion of it, you get laid off, some turbulence. Everything's not bad, but
yeah,
run into some challenges. I mean, we all do while living.
yeah,
Now in the second phase, you're in the last phase. You're
yeah.
excited. You're doing great. But did anything happen in that last phase of your Marine Corps journey where you were like, what the hell?
Yeah, it took a different slide in 2006. So now I'm at 20 years
Oh,
in 2006, and I have a run-in with an officer,
okay.
and I put it this way. One day, this was the beginning and the end of our relationship. I was a recruiter. I was recruiter of the year my first year, and I was NCIC of the quarter. And I did everything. Everything. You're a Marine. I'm the perfect Marine, and I felt like he was trying to drive me in a direction that was unfair to Marines of my color. Put it this way.
Okay, so
And
you felt like he had some racial biases, and
absolutely.
and through his behavior,
Yeah.
that kind of made you feel like it made you develop belief about that officer.
Right.
That's what. Okay, yeah,
Right. And I said, sir, you can't climb on top of the house, piss on my head, and tell me it's raining outside.
right. Mm-hmm.
Because I see what I see and I know what I know. And by this time, I'm 40. So I'm not a 90-year-old guy in the Marine Corps. I've been in there long enough. I had enough of the Kool-Aid, then I'm starting to spit it out. And so he made my life a living hell from 2006 and had residuals because I tried to do the right Marine Corps thing. I requested masks. I wrote letters to Naval Board of Corrections. You name it, I did it. Even Marine Corps IG team, Inspector Generals. I did it. There are rules and regulations out there that just can't beat racism.
And Paul, real fast,
Yeah.
you mentioned this officer, created conditions what made your life a living hell during that time I want to assume under his charge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk to the listeners, the viewers a little bit? Like, what does that mean when you say a living hell? What does that mean? Describe, like, what was he doing, his behavior that made you feel that way?
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the things, so I was the NCIC of the quarter, and I was the NCIC of the third quarter. And if I wanted the fourth quarter, I would be NCIC of the year. In the final days of the competition, he changed the rules of how it's going to be tallied up, and it favored someone else. The unfortunate thing is I had all the orders that he wrote to that point, and I had all the numbers that came out from everybody else because I'm monitoring, because I'm number one, I'm paying attention. And when he changed it, it blew me out of the water. And I contested it because if you're going to make changes, you got to write the changes out. You just can't verbally change it. A competition, and I didn't get it. So, and that was maybe 4 months after we started going odds in. So he would like call me up with the I forget his name, whatever his name is, number 2 guy, and they would taunt me in conversation to try to get me to say other things, be belligerent. They'd have me on a phone call, or he'd make me drive all the way from Selfridge to Great Lakes just to talk to me. What kind of
wow, what's the distance on that drive? That's a drive.
About 5.5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then one time this guy complained about he couldn't get in, and he drove all the way up there to see if I did something illegal. It was things like that. I had the flu, couldn't take the PFT one of those times, and I was the only one left. He drove up, made me take the PFT, and it was February in Michigan.
Yeah, wow.
It's things like that, and you haven't been around long enough to know when it's personal.
Right, and like you said, you're 40. I mean, not saying that off-year-olds are.
Yeah, you know how it works. Yeah, you know how it works.
Yeah.
So I just learned over time. So here's when I said systematic. I wrote a letter to the Naval Board of Corrections, and it was about information of why my fitness sport should have been changed. A couple of weeks later, he's got my letter. He's got the letter that I wrote to the Naval Board of Corrections. Not only that, I called the Naval Board of Corrections. I asked who is privy of the information that I seen. So here's what they did to me. They took my letter, they scratched out my name. They're going to do a point, what they call period of instructions on a disloyal Marine. They took my letter, gathered recruiters, trying not to say my name. What happened was one of the recruiters sitting in the class knew the story.
Right.
And he called me on the phone and he told me. So systematically, that should have never happened. So I contacted Naval Board of Corrections. I contact the IG team. The IG said, you got to talk to the Navy, blah, blah, blah. Hey. And then when I talked to my OIC of Eastern Recruiting Region, he says, we'll have him apologize to you. Fuck that.
Right.
Do to him what you would do to me. Now,
Yeah.
I've accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish about this time.
Right.
And it's time to go home. I've accomplished everything. I'm at my 23rd year. A couple of more months, it would have been 24 months. I mean,
Right.
24 years. But
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I've accomplished everything I need to accomplish. And this is what you need to remember. Why you join the Marine Corps? You join the Marine Corps to be a patriot, and you join the Marine Corps, esprit de corps, whatever you do it. But it has to end. So when you accomplish what you need to accomplish, even if you're going to go in for 4 years and you just want this particular MOS to be out in town, then that's what you did. But when you stick around for 20 years, make sure you prepare yourself to get out. And that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I can get out and be marketable and take care of my family.
Yeah. And I like how, you know, the 40-year-old Paul Posey, how all of those behaviors that he was demonstrating, you know, how they made you feel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
yeah.
How you had some confirmation from others is like, yeah, this is not right. And
right.
then, but I like how this time you thought through it and said, well, you know what? There's policy that allows me to communicate my grievance.
Yes.
And instead of me just going, screw you and the hell with you, sir, or whatever, emotionally, how you use and accurately did your homework, reviewed the policies, and said, I'm going to give the system, right? I'll say the organization and its policies an opportunity to work and to see what happens empirically. And I think that's very important because you didn't do that the first enlistment.
Nope. Hashtag I'm out of here, boy. Pull them chalks. And I was at the house in a heartbeat. But yeah, so I did do the time to do my due diligence to make sure it was not me. You know, that's what that means. This says that's not me.
Right.
That's what that says back there. That means I applied myself and I should get everything that goes with my my effort and merit. That's what that says. So when I got to that point, I'm like, this is not right.
Right.
And now I had to make decisions. Best decision I ever made. Best decision I ever made was to go back. Did it hurt me? It hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
That the Marine Corps did not have something in place. Because you can't change him. You can have all the Marine Corps orders you want.
Right.
It's human nature that makes the decisions.
Right.
Uniform Code of Military Justice says the truth is not a defense. Did you know that? I know you knew that, right?
Yeah.
It's actually written like that. And we have to understand that we can only use it so far. And then if not, get ready to bail when it's time to go. Don't stay until you keep suffering and suffering and suffering. Because at the end of the day, when you suffer that long, everybody around you suffer. Your wife suffers, you know, your kids suffer because that pressure. So yeah, by 2008, I was ready to kill myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was ready to kill myself.
And
I had to make a better choice.
And you know, you know, and another thing I like to highlight that you mentioned is you chose when to leave.
Yes.
You know, where the first one, you didn't really choose when to leave. You made the choice, but it was motivated by the first sergeant's toxic, you know, right, his behavior.
Right.
But I like how at this time, even though that officer was behaving in a way, like you said, that made you potentially become suicidal.
Yes.
You know, right? You're having suicidal thoughts and you're like, why the hell am I?
Right. Why am I leaning forward for this? That's what it was.
But the cool thing is how no matter what you went through, like you said, I'm not leaving because of him.
Right.
I'm leaving because my family said I got the skill sets. I'm in a position where I can transition.
Yes. And
I'm comfortable with transitioning from this journey because I have fought through it and not because I have this one officer out of hundreds of officers on active duty. So that I think that's very important for the listeners and viewers to hear that. And I thank you for sharing that.
There's one more thing. There's the power of the pause.
Yeah.
Pause. Just stop and think. Allow the emotion to feel. All right, go ahead and feel it first. And then think. Because if you don't, why not think first? Because you'll bury the emotion and it'll creep out later. So go ahead and feel the emotion of it,
Like
and
that.
then make your next move. Your thinking. Put your thinking cap on, because it is what you want at the end of this journey. You joined the Marine Corps for a reason. Are you getting what you want? The majority of the time, we don't join thinking of what we're going to do later. We just join the Marine Corps because we want to get out of the house. We got kids need to take care of. I had a 20-year plan. It turned into a 23-year plan.
Yeah.
Now I'm better at planning now. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. And I don't have all those MOSs and I don't have to work. How
Right,
about
right,
that? That's the plan. You know what I'm saying? If I have to go to work, I can go to work.
right, right.
Right.
And ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from Paul. He said, pause. It's okay. It's okay to feel these emotions. That's okay. Let the emotion, like Paul said, pause, let the emotions go. Anger, depression, be aware of them.
Yep.
But then go into that thinking. And how do you think through it so you can increase the potential outcome of a personal professional challenge? Paul, do you have any last advice or remarks to give our listeners and viewers today?
Yeah. Decision making. Learn the art of making a decision, and that'll kill the game. That'll kill the game. That would be it. Every decision you make, give it a 10-year expiration date. What this looks like in 10 years. When you start making better decisions, you'll start making a better life. That's what I got.
Like that. The better decisions bring clarity and produces a better life. Paul, where can people find you on social media?
Wow. Hey, you can find me. I actually have a YouTube channel. I speak on relationships, and I speak on men's growth. Check me out, Paul Posey, author Paul Posey on YouTube. You can find me on my Facebook page. I think I got like room for 6 more friends. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. And if you need some professional headshots and you're in the Atlanta area, I'm that guy for you.
And Paul's great. You got to check him out. I can't wait till I travel. I'm going to get closer to him. I'm trying to get over there. And where I can get me a professional photo, or at least we could take a selfie together. You know what I mean?
No. We're going to make you go click boom, baby. You're going to click boom, Mario.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you guys, if you want to listen to this episode and download it, go on Apple Podcasts and always leave us a rating review, even if it's a 1-star. We're cool with that. That'll help us make the podcast better. If you want to watch this episode, go on the YouTube channel, put in the search engine Mario P. Fields. YouTube, I'll pop up, subscribe, watch it. And again, feel free to leave comments. But until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Hoorah.